He had a very polished sales pitch that was completely not hitting the mark because he didn't try to help me out to solve the problem that I had.
And you feel like a beggar actually asking for your dinner. And you get mucked around by tyre kickers and time wasters because you haven't asked the right questions.
If the salesperson says it, it's sales. If the client says it, it's true. What we're looking at doing here with these 4 magic questions is creating a situation where the client actually does all of the selling.
How great would it be to have your clients telling you all the reasons that they should use your business as their service provider, rather than what normally happens, which is you trying to convince them that you're the best option for them. Tune into today's episode where we share the 4 magic questions that will help you win more jobs without begging people to work with you. Well, howdy there, Tony Fraser-Jones, host of the Profitable Tradie podcast. Really excited about today's episode and hanging out with my sidekick, Phil Smith.
G'day, everybody.
What did you have for breakfast this morning, Phil? We've tried that one before, haven't we?
Oh, hey, different question.
Yeah.
Man, you threw me with that. What did I have? I had toast. Super interesting.
What did you have on
your
your
toast?
toast?
What normally happens? I actually had jam on toast. What normally happens is actually I'm making breakfast for the kids because I always get up and do the morning run with the kids. And I made jam toast for my daughter, and before I had a chance to make my breakfast, she told me, I don't want jam toast anymore. And at that point, I was like, well, I could throw it in the bin or I could eat it. So I ate it.
Yes, as the experienced father of several children, I find that never do anything for them until you found out exactly what they want.
Well, sometimes you have to find out what they want, and then just before you do it, you double check, and then
right.
double check again, and then it's still wrong.
Yep,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, mate, what are we getting into today?
Mate, we are talking about how to win more jobs from the quotes and bids that you do. So basically sales, which is close, very close to my heart.
Yeah, I love a good sales talk.
Yeah. And basically, quoting and pricing up jobs, it takes a lot of time for business owners. It's painful enough when people say no or we don't hear back from them, with the lost work. It's even worse when you think about all the time that you've lost that you'll never get back, not just the job you don't get, but the wasted quoting time, wasted pricing time, wasted sales time, visits, everything.
It's really tough when you're talking to people about a job and it feels like, they're interviewing you and you have to jump through their hoops, a bit like a dog kind of begging for its dinner. You feel in a really weak position and they've kind of got the whip hand, it's not fun.
Yeah. And, you can kind of end up feeling a little bit like a mattress salesman or again, nothing against mattress salesman, but
we all need something to sleep on.
Or used car and you're out there and you're just really trying to, show off this is exactly what's important here and please buy my stuff. And that's just, it's not the way to do it. It doesn't feel good. And honestly, it doesn't really close deals either. So,
yeah. Well, the thing is that getting more people to say yes to your quotes and your bids, it is sales. And sales is a profession, and nothing happens until a sale is made.
Yeah.
For most of us in the trades and the services, we haven't had a lot of sales training. Maybe we think we're good at sales. Maybe we're not as good as we think.
Yeah.
But there are actually a bunch of skills to this and stuff you can learn. And asking questions is important.
Yeah.
And asking the right questions is even more important. That's a huge part of it.
Well, and important for 2 reasons. Like, number one, I just want to say a lot of people out there might think, sales is a bit of a dirty word. You shouldn't have to, get better at sales. You should just be good at what you do and people will buy your stuff, which honestly, get over that, please.
Yeah.
The fact is you do need to make sales or you don't have a business. So this is really important. But secondly is if you can do this well and, use the right questions and actually get better at sales, what you get better at is actually helping the person doing the buying, helping them get what they want, helping them solve their problem. So it's not, the byproduct is that you make more sales in your business, but the actual objective is to do a better job for the client and really help them to the best of your ability.
Well, that's critical. And I think we've talked about this before on the podcast is you can't force someone to buy something.
No.
You're not holding a gun to their head. It's not like coercion. And what sales is, it's actually professionally helping someone to solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we might as well get good at it so they use us so we can make sure they have a good experience than some cowboy down the road who, may not provide a great experience.
That's right. And so if you do this well, you're actually going to make it better off for the client.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So story time today, we might switch things up. You were talking to me a little bit about car buying experience recently.
Yeah.
And, kind of not the ideal sales person.
Yeah, no, not ideal.
Tell us the story, bro.
Basically, look, I'm in an ever-growing family in my house, and as that happens, you need new vehicles, right? I'm sure everyone's experienced this. As your family grows and grows, the vehicle needs change. So that happened to me recently, and went down to a car yard to get a larger vehicle, as it was. And I came in, and salesperson meets me on the lot, comes up, and the first thing he says is, "Oh,
let's just stop. Your foot had just touched the lot. Someone was in your pocket, right?
Bum rushed already."
Yeah,
but
right.
basically, a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, like, what are we after today?" And I said, "Oh, family car." And without asking any more questions, this guy drags me and my wife over to the sedan. And he's taking me through it, and he's showing me all the bells and whistles, electric windows, and look at these leather seats, and showing me all these like little things, seat warmers, and this is great, and blah blah. And I said, mate, look, the thing is, it's actually not big enough. I need something bigger. And before I could tell him any more, he goes, "Oh, sure," and it pulls out this SUV and says, "Look at this, and there's this bells and whistles. And if you wave your foot under the rear bumper, the boot pops open, and you don't even have to push a button." And he's showing me all of these features and going on and going through a sales pitch, and in the end I just had to tell him to stop. I've come here for a Toyota Steamer. I know what I want. I want a people mover. And it's funny because just before he'd said one of his big features for the SUV was, and it doesn't have to be a people mover, which was ironic because that's what I wanted. So he was trying to talk me out of the thing I came there to buy by talking me into something I didn't care about, because basically he didn't ask me any bloody questions. And I think the really important thing here is he had a very polished sales pitch that was completely not hitting the mark because he didn't try to help me out to solve the problem that I had. He didn't even know how many kids I had. He's taking me through these cars saying, you're going to need this, and you're going to need this, and you're going to need this. And in the end, I had to say, there are not enough seats in this car.
Yeah.
I don't care about the seat warmers.
And how often, if you're listening, really think about this, how often have you talked yourself out of a sale because you get into all the nitty-gritty detail of all the details and specifications of some piece of kit that you want to install in someone's house? This is might be difficult to hear, but they actually don't care about all the specs.
No.
They just care about what it does for them.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
The other thing is this guy treated me like I didn't have any idea what I'd come in there to buy. And because he didn't ask me, what he also didn't know is I'd been researching this for months, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I even knew which one on the car lot. I'd literally come there having already seen it, basically just to buy it. And if he'd asked me a couple of questions, this would have been the easiest sale of his life. But instead, you know what I did? I left and I bought it somewhere else because I just felt so alienated by this dude. Like, he just had no idea what he was doing. Yep. And it was a rubbish experience.
So questions are the answers here.
That's it. And I think, honestly, if we don't ask the right questions, we run into some problems.
Yeah, so if we're not good at the sales process and we're not asking these killer questions, first thing is that you're going to find that the client or potential client, they're actually in control of the situation. I hate that in sales, and I'm sure you do, where you feel like you're the whipping boy or girl, and you feel like a beggar actually asking for your dinner. And you get mucked around by tire kickers and time wasters because you haven't asked the right questions.
Totally.
And you end up actually doing bids and quotes for people that are a waste of time, that weren't really in a position to say yes, or you couldn't provide what they needed.
Yeah.
And you miss out on a bunch of jobs that you could have won as well because, like your situation, you just didn't hit the mark with the questions and the process you took people through.
Yeah, yeah. And on the other hand, if we get this right, some pretty big benefits. Number one is you get control back.
You're in control, and this is critical in sales. If you can't control the agenda and where things are at, then you can't direct it where you want it to go. And if you're in control, then you're going to win more jobs. You're going to feel good about it. You're going to be able to provide a better solution for people, and ultimately it's good for business. You win more of the bids and the quotes that you do, which saves you time, makes you money, and you give the client a great experience. That can drive the referral business, and it all goes from there. Yeah,
that's right. So it's benefit for you and benefit for the client. So, it's a win-win if you can get good at this and ask the right questions. Yeah. So, digging into this, I think sales is a skill, and one of the most important skills is asking questions and the right questions. And I think, if there's that old saying in sales where it's like, if the salesperson says it, it's sales. If the client says it, it's true. So what we're looking at doing here with these 4 magic questions is creating a situation where the client actually does all of the selling. And the salesperson
does all of the asking.
Is basically just asking the questions which prompt the client to do the selling to themselves. Which is a little bit of Jedi mind tricks. Yeah, it's actually not a trick. It's just helping them say what's important to them.
This is massive. So if you think about an example, let's say you were selling a heat pump.
For those of you that don't know, a heat pump is in New Zealand air conditioning unit, really.
Yep. So aircon. for example, and if you were the sort of traditional way is to talk about the heat pump and what kilowatts it is and how much power it's going to use and how much room it can fill up and real technical stuff, and you could talk a lot about that, and you could tell the person that it's going to make the room warm and it's going to keep everyone healthy and yada, yada, yada. But you really don't know what their key pain point is, what they're actually looking to achieve. You're much better to ask, hey, love to know, tell me about what you need this for.
Yeah, totally.
And they'll tell you.
You could have been going on and on about how much warmer the room's going to be, and they got it because they have a boiling hot house.
They want to cool it.
They want to cool it down. So let's go through the 4 questions, and we'll talk about why they're important.
Yeah. So the first one is, how long have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, critical question. Really, when you ask this, how long have you been thinking about this, what you're gauging is a couple of things. Number one, have they been thinking about it for a while? Because if they haven't, then, and this is more of a luxury item, something that's not an emergency or a must-have right now, and they haven't been thinking about it for very long, there's a good chance that this is the first time they've thought about it, and they're actually just looking. And I hate that I'm just looking, but the reality is some people need to do some reconnaissance first and a little bit of learning and research before they're willing to make a decision. But more than willing, it's before they're even able to make a decision, because they don't even know what they're looking at. They don't even really know if they want it. So basically, how long they've been looking gives you a gauge of how interested they really are. And it leads on to question number 2.
Why now?
Yeah, again, critical question, because once I know how long you've been looking, it's like, cool, so why are you actually acting now? If you've been wanting to get your garden landscaped and you've been thinking for a year, what's changed? Why are you actually doing something about this now? Why didn't you do it a year ago? It's very, very important. Basically, what you're looking for is for them to tell you that now was the time. Now, if they don't tell you that now was the time, if they say, oh, well, no real reason, I suppose I'm just still looking, then this is a really great time for you to realize that this person should be qualified out, because pricing this work and spending time on trying to win this job is probably a futile act. What you're looking for is for people to say, why now? Well, now is the time. I've been waiting long enough. It's time to or get off the pot.
If it's a landscaping project, it might be, hey, look, we're having a big family reunion at our house in October.
Yeah.
And so I want to get it done by then. That's a deadline. Or, hey, I want to get it ready for summer.
Yeah.
I want the pool all to be finished for summer. So that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Or they might say, I'm still looking at it and thinking about it. And you might say, oh, do you have anything in mind when you might want it done? And they might say, 8 months' time. And you're like, oh, cool. So how long do you think it might take to do a project like this?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't know, 3 weeks. And you're like, well, actually, our experience is that it's actually going to take 4 months. We're busy for the next 3 months. Like, it'll definitely take us like 4 or 5 months to get it done. That's right. I think you find everyone else's. So you can actually start to help them create some urgency around why now, because they may not actually understand how long it's going to take.
Well, again, I'm thinking about a company we work with that does solar work. And so in this case, it's, like, how long have you been thinking about this? Oh, on and off for about 6 months. Why now? Well, honestly, I'm getting to the point I'm sick of my power bill, man. I'm looking at it every month. I'm thinking, I'm hating this. It's time to make a change. And so, in this point, they've often been hit with when it's why now. It's like, well, I don't know if it is now, but it'll definitely be sometime in the next 6 months. And they say, oh, well, that's great. We have a 4-month waiting list anyway. So what we'll do is we'll get you in the books, take your deposit, and make sure that you happen within the next 6 months. To which they go, oh, yeah, okay.
So you've actually helped them create the decision.
That's right.
To buy, and this is the key thing, because sales is professionally helping people to buy. Yeah. And most people are actually hopeless at making a decision.
Yeah.
They want the result, but they dilly-dally. They're kind of, and we're all a bit like it. We dilly-dally, muck around, and our job is to help them actually make the decision so they can get the result.
That's right.
They have. And so the why now is about creating urgency and a time deadline so that we know that it's a thing.
Now, and this leads me to my next thing is, if they say, look, honestly, I'm not really sure why now. I was thinking maybe just within a year or so. And that that's just a long way out. Like, you're not able to leverage, a gap in the calendar. You're not able to say, well, this is going to take a while to get done. In which case, what you should do is you need to qualify really hard. And this is a hard thing to do. It takes non-attachment to the sale, which is, again, very hard, but crucial when it comes to sales. But that's a time when you should actually be able to turn them away politely. And I think a really good way to say that is, well, hey, look, our quotes and bids, they're only actually valid for a maximum of 30 days. So while it sounds like you're pretty interested in the project and would love to help you out with this, going ahead and pricing the work accurately and spending time on this is probably actually just not in your best interest, because by the time you actually want to take action on that quote or bid, it'll already have expired. We'll need to reprice the work, and there's a good chance it's changed. So, if it really is about a year away, then best thing we can do is provide you with some information, and we'll give you a follow-up call in about 8 months' time and see where you're at. Is that okay? And at that point, you've actually done the best thing for them in terms of customer service, and the best thing for yourself because you haven't run around pricing work that you were never going to win.
Because you do not want to price work that you just can't get a yes to. And so many business owners do that, waste so much time,
That's right.
so much emotional energy of money you can never actually get into your bank account.
Yeah, it's crucial. And this leads me to question number 3.
Which is, what's important for you with this project?
And this is massive because, like I said, with the car dealership, they started talking about everything that they thought was important without asking me what's important to me. Now, if he'd said, hey, what's important to you with this car, I would have said, I desperately need at least 7 seats, and I need 7 seats, including 3 to 4 car seats. So again, even an SUV, I don't want 3 car seats across the back.
Too small.
If I got an SUV with 7 seats, those 6th and 7th seat, they need to be big and roomy, not just like a pseudo boot. Basically, like, I need a people mover, and he would have been able to take me to the right thing. It's really, really important to ask what's important to them. And if you think about, what you're selling, whether it's the heat pump analogy we gave or anything else really, by asking what's important, they will tell you what's important to them. And then you structure everything you talk about around what they said was important. Because anything else you talk about is fluff and not important and honestly talking you out of the sale. Often one of the big pitfalls here is talking about the specs of the product, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's actually batshit boring to most people. They don't care. They don't even know what it is, whether it's a 975 kilowatt heater. It's like, what? Who knows?
Yeah, they don't know what that means.
They don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, does it heat my room? Or
doing solar, you're talking about how the inverter works. They're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like,
right?
cool.
Yeah.
The thing with why is it important is sometimes you need to probe into this a little bit, so you can use your minimal encourages and just say, hey, tell me more about that, or what do you mean by that? Or yes, and just sort of nod, and so they can keep talking, because what you're aiming to do is, as Phil said, get a download of their brain, and this is how you become a mind reader and exceptionally good at sales, because once you've downloaded what they want, what a coincidence when you put your proposal or your bid together or the solution, you just feedback what they've said.
That's
and they're
exactly
like,
what they wanted.
They're like, this guy is amazing.
Well, Alex Hormozy always says that one of the best things in sales, probably the most important thing in sales, is how well you can articulate the prospect's problem to the prospect. So if I can articulate your problem to you better than you can articulate it yourself, that means I get it, and I'm clearly the expert that can solve this problem. Whereas if I can't articulate your problem to you, then it seems like I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not the person to solve this problem. So the only way I can articulate your problem to you better than you can yourself is if you already have articulated it to me and I repeat it to you. And the big thing with this is people don't even realize. So if I say what's important to you and you tell me it's X, Y, Z, what I would then say is, hey, sounds like what's really important is X, Y, Z. Is that right? And just repeat your exact words. Trick is, you don't even realize I repeated your words and you go, oh my God, that's it. Thinking that I just pulled that out of my head. But actually I just repeated your words. Yep. And they never realize.
This does take a little bit of persistence and assertiveness, and it can feel a little bit awkward asking questions, because when you're doing sales, sometimes you feel a little bit nervous or on edge, or you're wanting to please.
Yep.
And that's kryptonite to sales. If you're trying to please people all the time, it's a killer to sales, because it smells of desperation, and nothing kills a sale like desperation. Yep. So you have to be comfortable just to ask the questions and let them talk. That's right. Resist the temptation to fill gaps and talk just because it makes you feel uncomfortable if they're not saying something.
Yeah.
Because that is, it's so off-putting, and it just annoys people, even at a subconscious level, because they can smell that desperation.
Yeah. And last thing with this question is, this is also a great opportunity for qualification, because if you ask what's important to you and they start rattling off a whole bunch of things that you can't actually do, they actually might have nothing to do with your service. So for example, if I turn up and I'm an electrician and I say, hey, what's important to you with this project? And everything that they start listing off to me is actually what a plumber does, because maybe they just don't understand what they're asking or who they're asking. Then this is where I have a duty to actually say, hey, unfortunately, that's not what we do. That's not within our skill set. So you'd be better off to try this person, or this person, and point them in the right direction. So, if they start talking about what's important and that's not something you can provide, you have a duty to explain that this is not something that you do, send them on their way in the right direction, and that way you've done the best thing for the client, and you haven't wasted any more of your time either, trying to talk them into something they didn't actually want.
Yeah. And so there's one more question, number 4, which is a super juicy question. Love this one. And that question is, Why did you choose to talk with us?
Yes, this is my favorite question of the 4. And the reason is because at this point, this is where they'll do one of two things. Either they'll say, I don't know, which is a very big red flag. That means they don't know anything about you. And honestly, they're probably just shopping around.
Yeah, they've just picked your name out of the
That's it.
Google or the phone or whatever.
The other option is that they start selling you to you. So they'll turn around and say, the reason I chose you is because you have a great name in the community. I've been referred to you by this person and this person, and honestly, you were the first choice on Google. You had 17,000 5-star reviews. And so you're clearly the key provider in our community and have a great reputation and a great reputation of quality, which is what came through in all the reviews. And quality is super important to me. So I just thought you would be the best choice. And at that point, they just did all the sale for you, which is great. But more importantly, they've just given you all of the ammunition to handle any objections that might come up later in the process. Because if they then say later on, you know what, this has been great and it all looks great, but the price is just more than I thought, then you can say, well, hang on, you said you've been looking at this for a year. You said you had to do it now. You said the most important thing to you was quality workmanship and that you chose us because we have a great reputation for quality workmanship. Look, I'm sorry if I'm missing something, but did you think it would be cheap? And then they say, well, no. And I'm like, well, is the most important thing still quality or is it now price? And they say, well, actually, I suppose it's quality. And now they've hung themselves on their own words, right? And then you can hit them with a little gem, which is, wouldn't you rather spend a little bit more than you planned rather than a little bit less than you should have? And that's done deal at that point. So,
that's so good.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I stole that from Zig
where's
Ziglar.
Where's the FPOS machine? I'll give you my credit card now, bro.
I took that
What
from
are you
Zig
selling
Ziglar.
anyway?
He's dead just now.
Yeah, he's
actually.
dead. Yeah.
But my point is at that point, they've told you that how long they've been thinking about this. They've told you that now is the time. They've told you everything that's important, and you've made sure that that's what you can provide. And they've told you that you are the person for the job. And at that point, anything that comes up really as an objection means that they have to go back on what they said. They have to live outside of integrity, and people hate that. Yep. They're not going to do it.
People won't create that lack of congruence between their words and their actions, which is massive. And here's the cool thing, and we talked about this at the start. If you have to tell them about why you're the best quality person, you've got to go through a whole spiel and pitch about that. That's sales.
Yeah.
If they tell you why they're using you and why you're a quality provider and why you've got all the 5-star reviews and why they were referred, it's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It just makes it so much easier as well because you didn't have to do all the legwork and talking. And I think the most important thing to point out here is, as much as each one of these questions is very well crafted to help you, don't forget that these are very well crafted to help the prospect, the client. Because at the end of the day, them cornering themselves with those objections and having said everything and having to go back on what they said in order to, weasel out, is actually not about them weaseling out. It's about them getting out of their own way. Because at the end of the day, they do want this product. Quality is important to them. They did choose you for a reason, and now is the time. But even with all of that being true, people have an overwhelming need to put stuff off, procrastinate, or not let themselves have what they want because they might feel some kind of, it could be imposter syndrome. Maybe I don't deserve a pool. Maybe I shouldn't be spending this money. I feel bad about it. Maybe I have a weird relationship with money and spending it at all is a difficult thing. Lots of things can come up in people's subconscious, which makes them stand in their own way and stop them from getting what they want. And what you're doing with sales is you're professionally helping people to buy. So what you're doing with these questions is you're helping remind them by them reminding themselves of what's important and what they want and that they do want it and they do want it now. And as a result, they're going to actually get what they want rather than throwing those walls up in front of themselves. So it's a very powerful thing. It's going to help you get your sales up, but more importantly, it'll help you satisfy more clients. And when you do it this way, they really achieve their goals, which is huge.
Yeah.
So let's land this plane.
Sales is professionally helping people to buy, and we want to help people get out of their own way to make a decision that's good for them and obviously good for us. And asking questions is the absolute key to making this work. And there are 4 killer questions that you need to ask. So get and use those. You'll find they make a massive difference to your conversion and to the performance of your business.
Awesome.
Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.